On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Ennis here. I want to introduce you to my friend Ralph, who's a monster. And Ralph particularly wanted to hear Rossiter Fengriffin and Gef, the talking mongoose, doing a tribute to the late great Charlie Rich.
Say, did you happen to see the most beautiful girl in the world? No, I did not. Tell her I eat, lad. Tell her I eat dripping. Tell her I eat meat byproducts. Meat byproducts.
Now that's what I call a real country and western for a monster introduction.
I really like the old credits.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Downs and I'm the director of an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology. But I suspect that you probably knew that already, or else you wouldn't have tuned in to watch this remarkable little show that we put out every Saturday afternoon. But just in case you didn't, and you've been hiding under a rock for months and you've never heard of us before, this is a hopefully entertaining, hopefully enlivening, hopefully educational, and hopefully something else beginning with E. I can't remember what it is now. And it's a compendium of news, views and stuff about Fortean zoology. And it's a mixture of hard science, weird shit, and the sort of weird half-baked surrealism that always makes me and Richard Freeman laugh. And we've got a small but ever slowly growing and very loyal viewership. And if you are new to this show, I hope you like it, I hope you decide to carry on watching it, and I hope you stay around for a bit. And just in case you didn't know, you can check out the CFZ. It's CFZ, guys, not CFZ, because we're not colonials. The CFZ website, which is at this address. It was George Bernard Shaw who said that Britain and America were two great nations divided by a common language. And I've thought about this quite a lot this week, because my old friend Mark Rains, who's a great follower of the show and who's sent us all sorts of things over the last few months, sent us this details of a new show on Netflix which he thought that we would probably like, and it's called Adventure Beast. And the blurb that goes with this says that it's about the adventures of a brave zoologist, his spunky niece and anxious assistant exploring the world while saving wild beasts. And yes, we've just watched the trailer and it looks great fun. And so, Richard and I, independently of each other, because he's just about to go home after Lorraine's funeral tomorrow morning, Richard and I are both going to be checking it out on Netflix, and we'll let you know what we find out about the adventures of the eccentric professor and his spunky niece. Despite what has been claimed over the years, butterfly collectors have, with one enormous exception, not been responsible for the extinction or extirpation of any British butterfly species, the one exception being the large copper, which disappeared from its natural habitat in the eastern part of England in the 1860s, partly because of habitat loss, but mostly because of overcollection on an industrial level. The British subspecies Lycaenia dispar is unquestionably extinct, but there are several other subspecies still in existence, the most important of which are Lycaenia dispar Batavia in the Netherlands and Lycaenia dispar rutila in parts of Eastern Europe. There have been attempts over the years to introduce both of these subspecies to the parts of England and Ireland where they were once found, although these have all been ultimately unsuccessful. So, imagine our excitement when these photographs appeared on the excellent UK Butterflies website. They were taken in the RSPB Nature Reserve at Wallasey in Essex in mid-August. Apparently others were photographed at the location near Oxford a week or so earlier. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I would hazard a guess that these are the Dutch subspecies. It's almost certain that they are the results of an unofficial reintroduction by the introductionist lobby, but whereas although these people are breaking the law, most specifically the Wildlife and Countryside Act of 1981, their hearts are in the right place and they are doing what they, and quite a lot of other people, think is the right thing to do. However, another source for out-of-place and rare butterflies in the United Kingdom is the current vogue for releasing butterflies during wedding and funeral services. Whereas the introductionists at least try to release these insects into areas where they might thrive, the wedding planners do nothing of the sort. It's my opinion that the vast majority of monarch butterflies, Danaeus plexippus, that turn up in the UK, except for those which are blown from the non-migratory populations in Spain, Portugal and Madeira, come from these overpriced insect releases. I've never heard of large coppers being used for such purposes, but they are ridiculously beautiful and would make an obvious subject for such releases if the companies involved were able to get hold of enough livestock. Please guys, if you know any more about this, you can contact me in confidence if you wish, and I would love to know more, so please tell me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a very peculiar story for you next. A year or so back, Carl Marshall phoned me and said, and I'm paraphrasing, "You'll never guess what happened to me. I have just seen a lynx in my back garden." And he went on to tell me how he had seen this strange, much larger than a domestic cat, crossing the end of his garden where there was, at least then, I don't know if there still is, a building site. However, he said to me something that Bernard Heuvelman said to me as well, is that Bernard Heuvelman said that if he had been on the shores of Loch Ness and found a washed-up monster, but he was the only person there and didn't have a camera, no one would possibly believe him, so all he would do is just push it back into the lake. And Carl didn't want us to publicise the story of this cat that he had seen in his garden. And when I say big cat, he's not claiming it's a leopard or a lion or a tiger. It's not one of the genus Panthera, but it is a much bigger than usual domestic cat. And so we sort of filed that back in our mental filing cabinets as something interesting that we'll deal with sometime, and basically forgot about it. Then last week I have a phone call from Carl. Guess what, dude, he says.
It was about midday, about maybe a week ago now, and the cat came back. It wasn't a lynx like I thought it was. I mean, I would have swore originally that we were looking at a lynx. I did see it from the other side of the hedge line, to be fair, and it wasn't really clear, but I was pretty sure at the time that it didn't have a tail, so I was wrong about that. It's clearly the same cat. It's about the same size. It's a good third larger than the average domestic cat. You get a better indication of its size when it jumps up on the fence. I wasn't the only person to see this cat. It had been seen by other people in the village and the surrounding villages, from what I gather. It's sort of lynx-sized. It's not far off that size. It's much bigger than the average domestic cat, which is what I originally noticed as it walked across the fence line. That's the first thing I spotted, was its size, and I realised it was kind of pale in colour. And this is about that size, and it is quite pale in colour. It's clearly the same cat, but it's not coming regularly. It comes on like a more of an irregular route. I saw it first time about a year ago, and then didn't see it for a whole year, and then it came back, I say, about a week and a half ago, and then it came back about 2 days later.
Well, of course, it's disappointing that the footage that Carl took doesn't show a lynx, but it does show a cat that's really quite unusual. And so, it's rather a good thing that I have some cat experts here. Carl brought this footage down with him last night, and he brought with him our mutual friend Matthew Whittard, who is one of the two head honchos behind the 14 Film Festival, and is the producer of Britain's Big Cat Mystery and Cat Hunters. So, I think I'm now going to introduce you to these two chaps, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about this peculiar animal. So I see that you have got Archie there. It's something I've noticed over the years, that whenever you point a camera at anybody, Archie insists on what's it called, photobombing, isn't it? Insists on being part of the video. So the first thing that I thought about the cat was, I believe, the same as Mothie. It looks very Siamese to me, except far bigger than a Siamese cat is, because Siamese cats are relatively small.
It's got the pronounced muzzle, isn't it, of a Siamese. In general, it looks like sort of Siamese shape. But
it's got that lankiness about it as well. It's quite slender, and I did think the shape of the head and some of the sort of coloration around the tips and the feet and stuff, it sort of indicate that there might have been a bit of Siamese in there somewhere. I really do.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably a hybrid of some sort.
Well, it actually looks like it's one of those cars that's been cut and shutted, because it looks like it's got the front half of Siamese and the back half of a Bengal.
Yeah.
And I say Bengal rather than Savannah cat, because Savannah cats, as you know, are integrative hybrids with servals. It is servals, isn't it? Me saying, as you know, and then having to check because I thought I got it wrong. But the serval spots are spots, whereas the spots of Felis bengalensis, or Prionalarius bengalensis as it is now, and hence of the Bengal cat breed, are rosettes, not spots. And if you look at the back of this cat, they are rosettes, not spots.
Yep.
So my gut feeling is that somebody has been playing silly buggers and trying to breed something very comprehensive, because Bengal cats aren't particularly bigger than ordinary cats, as the parent species Prionalarius bengalensis is no bigger than an ordinary cat. But I had forgotten that we weren't alone. It wasn't just the three of us. because my old friend V. McCrinnan was listening in through the miracle of Facebook Messenger on my iPad, and I'd completely forgotten. And then V made a very apposite and useful point. I think I'm going to keep that in.
I was just going to make a point that when you cross a breedable cat species, you often end up with a much bigger cat.
Yeah, hybrid vigour. It's why Prudence lived as long as she did, because she was 14 when she died, whereas boxers and bulldogs are lucky to get to 9. But Prue was 14, so... But, yes, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, that is my old friend V, who's on my iPad, and I've known V over 30 years, and he's a much valued member of the CSZ team, and he's the guy who goes around being brutal to trolls on the different CSZ websites and Facebook pages, and I've called him the Trollfinder General, which I think is quite appropriate. But it looks to me like somebody has crossed a Bengal with a Siamese of some sort, and that, if these correct, the progeny are going to be much bigger than one would have expected from a domestic cat. But I think this is important, not just because, hey, we've seen Carl's lynx and it turned out to be a domestic cat, but because if Carl, who knows what he's talking about, can think it's a domestic cat, can think it's a lynx, I think we are going to get a whole string of big cat reports from the Stratford area, and they are all going to be reports of this cat. So guys, what do we do next?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I just had a quick Google search then, and it does seem that Siamese Bengal hybrids are something that's been tried many times, and a quick sort of crude search would suggest they come out with lots of different markings, and the appearance can vary quite radically. So you might be onto something with that idea there, John. It's just unfortunate it's not the panther that I've been waiting for.
No, it's not.
But it is something that's going to muddy the waters. So Carl, I think it's important to try and find out who owns this cat, what exactly it is. And so what we can, to sound like the jolly old British bobbies, we can eliminate this cat from our inquiries. So how are we going to find out where this cat lives? Who owns it?
Well, there's no collar on it. I couldn't see one anyway. It turns up so irregularly that I have no idea how we'd even work that out. Maybe we just ask local people around the villages if anyone's got one, an expensive hybrid, and just see whether the same cat.
Beautiful cat though, isn't it? Stunning.
Yeah, lovely.
Well, what we can do is we can take a screen grab from the film, and by the way, that was excellent footage, Carl. Take a screen grab from the film, get some flyers printed, and just distribute them around the village, see if anybody knows this.
Put it up in the village shop, in the village post office, that kind of thing.
You know, I still think it's relevant, even though, like you said to me, it's not the panther. I still think it's relevant though, because I do personally believe, and I think the data does show this quite clearly, that these animals are either pets that have escaped or have released, or they are first generation, second generation descendants of those pets that have escaped or are released. So the fact that this is a pet of some sort, a hybrid, you know, it's still relative. It's still relevant, like, 'cause it's still it still means something.
I want to say the other cat's got here as well, right?
Exactly.
Man's meddling.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the end of the discussion for the day, because I am, as Louis keeps on pointing out, an analogue man in the digital world. And I was talking to Carl and asking him if there was a local scout troop or something in the village that could be commandeered into putting out leaflets, upon which Louis, on the other side of my iPad, said,
"Why not put it on Facebook? Everybody has a Facebook page nowadays. Every village, every town has a little group chat. Just post it in one of them."
We hadn't thought of that, so that, dear readers or dear viewers, is exactly what we are going to do. And before we knock it on the head for this time, I had actually forgotten a piece of my own research, but in my book, Smaller Mystery Carnivores of the West Country, which I believe my assistant, the lovely Carl, has floating around, because he found a copy of the first edition of it, the old ring-bound edition of it, with me completely wasted and a photograph on the back. That, believe it or not, was a publicity shot for Channel 4, and if you take it out, it has to be holding up a crucifix and being very scary. But in my book, The Smaller Mystery Carnivores of the West Country, I talk in passing about a series of big cat sightings of what appear to be huge Siamese cats near the mid-Devon town of Newton Abbot. I call them in this book super-Siameses, and I am wondering if there is some link between them and the cat which Carl so masterfully filmed in his back garden. So, boys and girls, watch this space.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little studio, wants me to remind you, always press the notification bell. Otherwise you won't be told when there's a new show to watch. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it? And so, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another episode. And I hope you enjoyed it, because I think it was a rather special one. And I want to say a big thank you to, as always, Carl and Louis and Richard, because without them I wouldn't be able to do any of this. And this time in particular I want to say thank you to Carl, because I think that his scoop in filming that weird cat was a remarkable stroke of serendipity. And that, like I said, is just about it, because after this I am going to go to bed for the next week, and it'll be, I sort of hang upside down in a in the wardrobe with like a large fruit bat, and then Archie will come and wake me up 5 minutes before the next episode is due to air, so I can be down here to chat to you in the live chat. And that's only in 7 days. So in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 days, in another week, we'll be back, because Saturday afternoon is on the track day. And hey, what else can I say? If you'll be there, I'll be there, and I'll be seeing you.